Hi, hello, welcome to Vital Biology. This is Padma. In this video, we will learn about the class Reptilia. These organisms got the name as reptilia based on their locomotion. As we know that, like in case of snakes or otherwise crocodiles, they generally creep or otherwise crawl on the land. So based on that particular character, this group of organisms got the name as reptilia, because reptilia word derived from Latin words like repair or otherwise reptum. Okay, so repair or otherwise reptum means nothing but to creep or otherwise crawl. So based on this locomotion character, okay, these organisms got the name as reptilia. And majority, that is mostly, they are terrestrial organisms. These are the like in animal kingdom, we'll say this is the first group of organisms which got completely evolved to lead a terrestrial mode of life. Okay, but still not like all the organisms are leading a terrestrial mode of life. That's why we are saying here mostly terrestrial, but few, yes, still they live in water, like for example turtles, terrapines. So like these organisms, if we will see, yes, majority of their life they lead inside the water. Okay, so that's why mostly terrestrial, but few, yes, they still live in water. And body is generally covered by dry and as well as the cornified skin. Okay, cornified skin and even epidermal scales and scutes, we will say. So generally, as these organisms to lead a terrestrial mode of life, as we know that to lead a terrestrial mode of life, the main hurdle they have to face is external temperatures. Okay, on earth, to lead a terrestrial mode of life, yes, definitely the high temperatures is a main problem. So that's why these organisms covered their body with the scales. Like in the case of these snakes, if we will see, yes, they are covered with scales. Whereas even we can see some of the organisms, their body is covered with the like scutes. So in the case of these gharials or otherwise crocodiles, generally if we will see, their body is, our skin is covered with like hard plates. Okay, those hard plates are otherwise also called as the scutes. Okay, so that's why here we said scales and as well as the scute, and generally skin is dry. Okay, and generally these organisms also not provided by external ear openings. Okay, external ear openings are even in these group of organisms as like that amphibians. Here also it is absent. And the same tympanum is present even in the case of these reptiles, so that they can receive the sound waves, so that they can interact with the external environment. So here that's why they said tympanum, which represents nothing but the ear. Okay. And reptiles are poikiloderms. Okay, poikiloderms. And as already we know that poikiloderms means nothing but the cold-blooded animals. So cold-blooded means they do not have a fixed body temperature. Definitely they have to change their body temperature according to the external environmental conditions. So such type of the nature or the such type of animals are actually called as poikiloderms. Okay, or otherwise cold-blooded animals. So fishes, amphibians, reptiles, all the three comes under these poikiloderms. And limbs are actually when present. Okay, so how many they are? 2 pairs. So when present, why did they say like that? Because as we know that in case of snakes, generally the limbs are absent. But if they are present, yes, definitely here you can see 1 and 2. So like this 2 pairs of limbs we can observe in the case of these reptiles. And if we will go towards their like internal structures, so heart is generally 3-chambered heart. Majority of these reptiles are provided with 3-chambered heart, like upper 2 auricles and lower 1 ventricle. So that's why 3-chambered. But except in the case of the crocodiles. So in crocodiles, generally the heart is 4-chambered. That is upper 2 auricles and lower 2 ventricles. So that's why in crocodiles, yes, definitely the heart is 4-chambered heart is seen in the case of these crocodiles. Okay. So 3-chambered in majority of the reptiles except crocodiles. So crocodiles are provided with 4-chambered heart. And in these organisms, generally sexes are separate. So sexes are separate means male and the female organisms are generally separate. So that's why we'll say unisexual organisms. And fertilization is, internal fertilization is observed. Okay, fertilization is internal fertilization, that is inside the female body generally the fertilization occurs, and as a result, okay, the fertilized egg is released outside. Okay, so after once the fertilization got finished, the egg will be released outside. So that's why here they said oviparous. Oviparous means here egg laying, and those eggs are fertilized eggs. Okay, fertilized eggs are actually released in these animals. So that's why oviparous. And development is direct development. So direct development, that is without any of the larva. Okay, without any larva. So that's why here we'll say direct development is observed in these organisms. In these organisms, like in the case of snakes and as well as the lizards, they shed their scales in the form of a cast. So, such type of the nature is actually called as like a molting, where the external outermost covering or the outermost skin generally at regular intervals actually they shed off. So, such type of the castings, skin castings are released by these snakes and as well as the lizards. And in these organisms, mainly the examples which they have provided, like one is the Celotes, that is of garden lizard. Okay, lizard's point of view if we will see. So, the first one is the garden lizard, that is of the Celotes. And one more lizard also they have mentioned, that is of the tree lizard. Tree lizard, that is of chameleon. Okay, tree lizard, that is chameleon. And the important characteristic feature of this chameleon is it exhibits camouflage, that is according to the background it can change its color so that it can easily escape from its predators. So such type of the protective coloration can be observed by this chameleon, which is commonly called as tree lizard. And one more lizard also they have mentioned, that is of wall lizard. Generally in our surroundings, whatever the lizards generally day-to-day life we will observe, so that is of wall lizard, which is commonly called as Hemidactylus. Okay, the scientific name is the Hemidactylus, which is commonly called as the wall lizard. And going towards this testudo. So testudo is nothing but the tortoise, which leads life on the land. And coelom, that is of turtle. Turtles generally we can observe in the sea. They are adapted to the marine habitat. Okay, so testudo is the tortoise, whereas the coelom is the turtle. And also they have mentioned the crocodile. Okay, they have mentioned the crocodile. Okay, so this crocodile also we can observe. Crocodile and as well as the alligators. Okay, crocodile is crocodile, whereas the alligator. So the difference between a crocodile and the alligator is generally in the like the mouth or otherwise snout structure. So in case of the crocodiles, the snout is generally V-shaped, whereas in the case of the alligators, the snout is U-shaped. Okay, U-shaped. So that is the difference between the crocodile and as well as the alligator. And even we can observe the gharial also. So gharial is actually in which we can see the more elongated narrow snout is observed in the case of the gharial. Okay, and along with that, yes, definitely we can see some of the snakes which they have mentioned, and in which the poisonous snakes they have mentioned, that is of the one is Naza, that is Indian cobra. Okay, Naza, that is Indian cobra. And also they have mentioned like Bangaras. Okay, Bangaras. So Bangaras is the, that is of crate. Okay, Bangaras. So that is of crate. So this is also one of the poisonous snake. And one more also they have mentioned, that is of vipera. That is nothing but viper. Viper. Okay, vipera, like Russell's viper. So this is also one of a poisonous snake. Okay, so in this way, the poisonous snakes which they have mentioned, that is one Naza, that is Indian cobra. Next Bangaras, that is of a trait, and one more, that is of the vipera, that is viper. And non-poisonous snakes, yes, we can give example like python. Okay, so these are the various examples of reptiles.